afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Bristol, Virginia City Council for March 30th, 2020 for our called meeting. One thing I will note is that Councilman Mumpower is on conference call, and I believe he can hear us. We're going to go ahead and observe a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all very much. First item is the adoption of the agenda. Looking for a motion and a second to take action.
Move to approve.
Motion from Mr. Wingard and second from Mr. Hartley. Please call the roll.
Farnham.
Yes.
Mumpower.
Yes.
Wingard.
Yes.
Hartley.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. Item 1, resolution confirming emergency declaration by the city manager. Staff report.
Council, this resolution before you today confirms the declaration of a local emergency made by myself on March the 17th of 2020 and amended on March 30th, 2020 in accordance with recommendations from the Virginia Local Government Attorney Association. Confirmation is required within 45 days of the declaration by state code in order for the city to be able to access state or federal disaster funding that may be available in the future related to the COVID-19 disaster.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. Does anyone want to say anything?
Thank you for giving the opportunity. My name is Michael Pollard. I live at 101 Ashley Drive. I would just ask that the council be very careful not to let there be the appearance of any secrecy under the auspices of an emergency. We need to make sure that the public not only can view meetings, but they can interact with meetings, whether those meetings be done in person or electronically. If council members have the ability to participate electronically, in my opinion, the public should also be allowed to interact and not only view electronically. Modern technology makes that a very viable option, including moderated interaction from the public. And I would just like to make sure that that is very much in the council's mind, because we've been making great strides in openness and transparency and public involvement over the past several years. We need to make sure that we don't backslide in that factor at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollard. I think, do you want to address that? I think we had tried to set up some kind of way for people to call in by conference call.
Well, today was the public could not call in by conference call. We've had issues, technical issues that have limited how people can participate. Based on council's directive at the last meeting, and I think a consensus of council, everyone would prefer to meet here in person to do the people's business if at all possible. And we're going to continue to try to meet in business or meet in person during this time period if reasonable. And you know, it's always been my goal here to be as transparent with the public as we possibly can be, unless it's something that we can't release due to privacy matters. So I'm not trying to limit public interaction by any stretch of the imagination. We're just in unprecedented times right now, and we have to make do with what we can until we can get all these technical issues resolved so that other people can call in via conference line.
Thank you. Item C is reading of the resolution.
Resolution confirming the city manager's declaration of a local emergency for COVID-19 virus, whereas the city manager is designated as the director of emergency management for the city of Bristol, Virginia. Whereas the World Health Organization characterized the spread of COVID-19 virus as a pandemic on March the 11th, 2020. Whereas the governor declared a state of emergency on March 12th, 2020 related to the COVID-19 virus. And whereas the COVID-19 virus and its continued spread pose an imminent threat to the public health and safety of the residents of the city of Bristol, and the consequences of the virus are sufficient severity and magnitude to warrant coordinated local government action to prevent or alleviate any potential damage, hardship, suffering, or possible loss of life. And whereas, given the governor's declaration on March 12, 2020, and the immediate need for local emergency actions to begin, the Bristol, Virginia City Council could not timely convene to give its prior consent to the city manager's declaration. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bristol, Virginia City Council confirms the declaration of a local emergency by the city manager on March 17, 2020, and amended on March 30, 2020.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion and a second to proceed on this.
Second.
Okay, motion from the Vice Mayor and second from Mr. Farnum. Council discussion. That's for the
No,
second.
that's just my declaration. It doesn't need to be read.
All right, hearing no discussion, clerk will call the roll, please.
Farnum.
Yes.
Mumpower. Wingard.
Yes.
Hartley. Osborne.
Yes. All right, item 2, adoption of emergency ordinance 20-1, staff report.
Council, this is an ordinance that confirms the electronic participation policy previously adopted by council, but is specific to the COVID-19 emergency and recommended by the Local Government Attorneys Association of Virginia. As an emergency ordinance, only one reading is required, and the ordinance will become effective immediately upon its adoption, and the ordinance will cease to remain in existence 60 days from adoption. In the event that we need to continue this ordinance, we can vote on it again at a later date in order to continue government operations if necessary. This ordinance is specific in how we can meet if this council deems that they want to meet in a different manner than how we are meeting in person today.
Thank you. Public comment, I think the clerk has an issued comment to read.
I spoke to Nancy Marney this morning, and so she gave me a statement that she wanted me to make on this item. Nancy Marney is opposed to the electronic participation policy because the city of Bristol is a small locality. The policy has the potential to open the door to both shenanigans and cowards. In her opinion, all voting by council should be in city council chambers.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else want to make a comment? Okay. Looking for a motion and a second for the reading of the emergency ordinance by caption only.
I move that we approve by caption only.
Second.
Okay, so motion from Mr. Wingard and second from Mr. Farnum. Please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Mumpower. Wingard.
Yes.
Hartley. Osborne.
Yes. Reading of the emergency ordinance by caption only.
Emergency ordinance to effectuate temporary changes in certain deadlines and to modify public meeting and public hearing practices and procedures to address continuity of operations associated with the pandemic disaster.
Thank you. Now I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt the emergency ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Wingard and second from Mr. Farnum. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Mumpower. Wingard.
Yes.
Hartley. Osborne.
Yes. We stand adjourned.